What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka Ninos Corner, man. First off, if you like this content that is coming your way, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. Hit that bell, get all my notifications. And also, guys, if you're listening to this on the podcast and not watching YouTube, I'm everywhere, guys. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Breaker. We're there. Give me a like, a comment, a 5-star review means a lot. But first off, guys, let's get into my sponsor. Support for the Ninos Corner podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who's the best in men's below the waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, folks, the 4.0. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping using the code Ninos Corner at manscaped.com. Again, 20% off and free worldwide shipping using the code Ninos Corner at manscaped.com. All right, folks, another shameless plug. 10% off promo code using the code NCPeeps. 10 at Ninos Corner merch. You get the Do You merchandise like my hat, hoodies, everything, guys. Ninos Corner merch, shirts, hoodies, the whole nine, ladies, tights, all that stuff for you guys, crop shirts, the whole nine. 10% off using the promo code NCPeeps10 would help out a lot, folks. But today, folks, we are not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about Gary Patterson. Who would ever in their right mind have thought that there is any possibility for Gary Patterson to join this staff here at Texas? And no, it hasn't happened, but there's a lot of smoke on this. So, folks, tell me first off, what do you think about Gary Patterson possibly joining Texas? Do you like it? Leave a comment in the bottom. Do you like it or not? Would you accept Gary Patterson here? He has kind of owned us here over the last, I don't know, decade. We've actually won a couple games here against him lately, but Gary Patterson is that guy, builds awesome defenses. And it looks like there's been smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire, that Gary Patterson has said that, well, don't know if he said per se, but there's been mutual interest between him and Texas, with him coming on to this staff in some kind of way, whether it's at a co-defensive coordinator position, an analyst, or whatever. I think as an analyst, that's a no-go. It's a waste of his talent, a waste of his ability to go out there on the recruiting grounds and actually recruit for the team. I think Gary Patterson would be an awesome addition here as a co-defensive, coordinator title, maybe to shore up the back end, since our back end has not been the greatest here since our new staff has come in. There have been rumors now that Terry Joseph is going to leave Brian Kelly to go to LSU. We all know that Terry Joseph is from Louisiana, so that's home. And he just came from Notre Dame with Brian Kelly. So Brian Kelly, once he gets to LSU, he's probably going to want to assemble a staff that he's very familiar with, a staff that recruits well for him, and a staff that he's very comfortable with. Terry Joseph fits that mold. But let's talk about GP. Let's talk about Gary Patterson, man. Gary Patterson hates Texas. I think we know it. Gary Patterson finds great humor and great pride in beating Texas, and he's let it be known that he had the famous comments, I've beaten better with worse. Remember that, guys? A few years ago, it's like the Charlie Strong era, the Tom Herman era. But he said, I've beaten better with worse, meaning that some of the talent that he's had has been worse than what he had at that moment. And he's beaten Texas. He's beaten better Texas teams than what was had at that point. But there's a lot of linkages in this, right? A lot of links. Chris LeConte, what school did he come from, folks? TCU. Where's Chris LeConte at right now? Where is OG CDC at right now? I call him OG Original Gangster because that's what he is. CDC. Where's he at now? Texas. Does Gary Patterson have a job right now? Nope. Does Gary Patterson want to work? Maybe. Does he want to have the stress of being a head coach? Probably not. To me, at this point in a guy like Gary Patterson's career, it's a perfect opportunity for him to be a defensive coordinator at Texas. And say he's really good friends with Dodds. CDC's really good friends with CDC as well. Say he respects the hell out of Steve Sarkisian. We all know that Gary Patterson is a defensive guy, a great defensive mind. Ran the Mountain West Conference with TCU when they were there. Comes to the Big 12. I think he won a Big 12 championship, maybe two. Always fielded great defenses. He's done more with less. He's those guys that he's that guy that can find talent, get the best out of a 2 or 3 star. Let them churn in the system. Let them work. Let them work. By year 3, they're ready to bust out. Now, if you can see Gary Patterson working with great talent that we're going to get here at Texas, I think it'd be amazing. But the only worries that actually worry me is that you got guys like PK and you got Gary Patterson. Can they coexist together? Because Gary Patterson is used to having the whole show, right? It's his defense. We all know TCU, that was his defense. Can he coexist with a guy like PK? Can they coexist together? What are their specialties? We know PK likes to take control of the front seven. Um, is Gary Patterson a guy who is suitable to only do the secondary? If a guy like Terry Joseph were to leave, if it happens, what happens to Blake Gideon? Does Blake Gideon learn and be tutored and mentored by your PK and also your Gary Patterson? I think so. It's a win-win for Blake Gideon. But Gary Patterson, if he had the opportunity to come to Texas, how awesome would that be? I think that would be a home run. Sark's offense, getting the talent that he needs on offense. I think he has the right offensive line coach in Flood. We've seen the continuity and just how these guys have turned out to be pretty damn good at the end of the season. Not the best by no means, but they've come a long way, and it's all due to continuity and Coach Flood. We've seen Topa Yamadi's post here on Twitter where he basically said Coach Flood is an amazing coach, and he not only helped him get that physical part, but he helped him get the mental part too. Now, the offense is short up. I love what we got on offense. Stan Drayton, love him. Yeah, I think we're good there. Banks, love him. Special teams coach and a tight end coach. Defensive side of the ball, just for me a little bit of work. This defense finished 9th through 10th in the Big 12 this year, which is not good at all. 110th, 112th, whatever in the country as far as FBS schools when it comes to total defense, not good at all. But you bring a guy like Gary Patterson here, if you can get him and Coach PK on the same page, I think you're looking at somebody who can, I wouldn't say teach PK because PK is a great defensive coordinator on his own right. Doesn't need anybody to teach him anything. But Gary Patterson has thrived here in the Big 12 when it comes to defenses, and he knows the system. He knows Matt Campbell. You know, he knows Steve Sarkisian. He is somebody who can come in and game plan with Steve Sarkisian and say, well, if I were to game plan against you, this is what I would do. And he can sit down and dissect and not only make the defense better, but also make the offense better by basically telling them what he would do to stop them and give them some of the best pointers and best tips, because he's coming from the place where he has been a guy who has wanted to destroy Texas, embarrass Texas. That is what he has been wanting to do his whole career once he came to the Big 12. And he has done that for a big part of his career. But now if you get him to the good guys, you get him on our side, he's able to come and show the tactics that he's used, the defensive fronts. Even though if we might not have the personnel that might be ready to run a system like PK's, maybe he can help monitor that situation. Maybe he can help put guys in position. Maybe he can help PK understand what it is like week in and week out here in the Big 12 when it comes to playing against these high potent offenses. And it's to be a great transition into the SEC as well, because as we see, the SEC is turning into a conference that used to be what the Big 12 used to be, scoring a lot of points, wide open offenses. DeVere and shoot. Ole Miss is running that. Okay, Ole Miss is running the Art Browse defense. Ole Miss's OC is Art Browse's son-in-law. You don't think there's those footprints, those little bit of details from that Veer, from Art Browse's offense now into Ole Miss's offense? Yes, there are a lot of wrinkles in that, sprinkled in with the genius of Lane Kiffin as well. So having a guy like Gary Patterson over here at Texas will help us do very well in the next coming years here prior to Texas leaving the Big 12 and going to the SEC. But it also is twofold. It's going to help us in the SEC as well, because a lot of the SEC teams are running wide open offenses. And who better else to stop it than a guy with a defensive pedigree, a great defensive mind, a great mindset when it comes to defense than Gary Patterson. We all know TCU fields great defenses every year. And yes, they do more with less. They don't get the talent that Texas has. They just don't. And now you have a guy like Gary Patterson who has an Alfred Collins. If Overshawn comes back, a Crawford at DB, Janae Barone, Anthony Cook. We got to get some safeties. Got to get some safeties. Got to get some linebackers. But we have the opportunity for a guy like him to have, like we say, an Alfred Collins, a guy like that to have a Vernon Broughton and be able to play with this clay and turn it into something that's going to be a hell of a monster. I love it. You guys leave me some comments. Let me know what you think about Gary Patterson and the possibility, and should he come here? And if he does come here, is he wanted here? I want him here. I don't care anything you did to Texas in the past 10 years, 12 years. You can come here with open arms. I'm going to hug you. I'm going to hug you, man. Please. Come on, GP. But anyways, guys, there's a lot of links in here. Gary Patterson, with being a coach who highly respects Steve Sarkisian, being a coach who basically worked for CDC at TCU. He was the AD at TCU. So being a guy who has a lot of those linkages. DeLoss Dodge is one of his good friends. From what I understand, he's come to Austin quite a few times to even talk to him. So this is great. I think it's a match made in heaven, something that Texas could use. And if Brian Kelly does pull Terry Joseph, it leaves a slot open and it leaves it right there for a guy like Gary Patterson to come through and do his thing here at Texas. But hey, guys, on that note, man, I'm out. Do you, man. Don't be afraid to fail. Outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance. Ninos Corner. I'm out.